Hi, in this video I'm going to talk to you about essentials for 3D printing. So we're going to start off by showing an FDM Prusa i3. So these are parts and accessories you're going to need if you're using an FDM system. So most FDM systems, like the Prusa i3, use a timing belt as the extruder axis, Hotend axis drive. Some use linear rails, but they're just a lot slower, so belts are most common. So always handy to have some spare belt, because they rub quite often with these printers, and always handy. Secondly, a fan, because cooling your heatsink here on your Hotend is vitally important. You don't want this part of your Hotend getting really hot, so the heat block is the only part which it needs to be hot, so the filament can feed down through here without melting and causing problems. So a spare fan, and printing something like this, which is a dual fan, this actually cools the print as well. Great stuff. Also these spare heatsink, they're handy to have just in case you get some blockage. There's a PTFE tube in there which sometimes, well, breaks. Spare nozzles, these are 0.4mm nozzles. Always handy to have just in case you get some blockages, stuff like that. Another spare for your printer, these are 100k ohm, 100 ohms? Yeah, 100k ohm thermostat, or thermistor. And there's one of these goes into your heat block, and another one then under your heated bed if you're running a heated bed, and that they tend to burn out sometimes. It's just this tiny little piece of glass with a heat register in it to keep your bed at the right temperature. Heat blocks, you can buy these fully assembled, always handy to have. This one is actually a blocked up one I've got and used. Yeah, so they're just spare parts you need. Let me just move them to the side. Then, when it comes to actually printing, with most FDM systems which are open, like this printer I've got, you're gonna need some sort of, like a hairspray or a blue tape or a capped on tape to get your print to adhere to the bed. So just to stick and get them first layers stuck down real good, so that you can, so your print is perfect, I suppose. I use this firm hold hairspray, just try not to get it on any of your rails, and that's better than the tape, because the tape, with tape, it always peels up onto the bottom of your print and then ruins the bottom of your print. As well, when you're about to start, I always, when I'm printing, I print a little brim around the print, about 4 or 5mm away, so that any excess filament which is melted in the Hotend while heating up and dribbles out, I can just, that clears it on the brim. But most, well, use a tweezers to pull excess filament out of your Hotend just before the print is about to start, or print with a little brim around the part. Then finally, when your print is started, you're gonna need, well, when it's started, it's just gonna go, and you're just gonna have to wait and see if it works. Keep an eye on it. Like this print I've got going now, just keeping an eye on it. But when your print is done, if you've used like a hairspray or even tape or something like a Pritt stick glue or acetone mixture, I don't know what everyone uses, you're going to need something like this to... Ooh, that's tough. To remove your print from the bed, just scraping it, and should be sufficient enough to do that for you. And that. Tools, you're going to need like Allen keys, screwdriver stuff just to keep everything nice and tight, looking after it, some spanners possibly. This small Allen key here is actually good. If you do get a blockage, you can just slot it down through the hot end like so and push out any excess filament stuck in there. But when your prints are done, you're gonna need some essentials really, because 3D printing is not a final process manufacturing, it's just like a prototyping and self-manufacturing process. So once your prints come out, you might get some stringiness in between them. This is a Pikachu that was the first thing I actually printed on my printer. And then you can use like a soldering iron or a Dremel with loads of different bits. You can actually get attachments for a soldering iron to make it so that you can burn off parts and engrave into it, or just, you know, burn off excess parts on your thing, on your print with a soldering iron or a Dremel, like this Raspberry Pi case here. I've had to just get the Dremel down inside there and clean it all up, and the ports on the side, just to make them so they're nice finished parts. And oh, essentials, desiccant bags. So when you buy a 3D printer, you might want a lot of filament. This is filament, comes in 3mm, 2.8, well the standard is 1.75 and 2.8mm, but they do it in 3mm, 2.85 and 1.75. I use 1.75mm filaments on my printer, and they're amazing. PLA, ABS, PTEG, all the materials you can print with. You can actually get wood, which is like a PLA filament with wood chips, like particleized inside of it, which is great. But when you get your filament, you need a lot of desiccant. Well, not a lot, you just need to store it with the desiccants to keep the moisture out of it and stop it from drying out too much or being too damp. You need a good half and half mixture there, so just like a desiccant bag inside of a sealed container bag, and your filament should last a long time. That's pretty much all the essentials you need, except for what I haven't got yet, which is some lithium grease for just your linear rails. So once you're actually up and running printing, you're going to need to grease your linear rails here and here, and obviously on your bed axis. This is printing a jack, which is a one-part item which actually moves and lifts as a jack, which I can't wait to see. And basically those are your 3D printing essentials.